Good morning here. Excited to be here with you on a Sunday as I always am. Little warning, I am feeling under the weather, but nonetheless, we are here on Sunday to talk about real estate. So excited to be here with you guys. Good morning to all. I hope you guys had an absolutely fantastic week. I am trying to settle into retirement. It's just not going as according to plan. It was a big week this week. First time ever that I've gotten 2 lawsuits in a day. And I've only been sued one other time. So, so there wasn't a high chance. Found out about an audit. It's been a busy week, everybody. And I'm not even done work yet. They're still keeping me around. Apparently they just are going to miss my face. So they're keeping me around still. My last day is the next couple of days. It's actually Valentine's Day. That was the gift to my family and to myself, was an official Valentine's Day retirement. That being said, oh my word, it is more than a little bit crazy. We've got course news. In fact, we'll actually cover that first. So for those of you who are in the boot camp, we got all the polls and everything up early this week. I think it was Monday. Everything got up Monday. We're basically just giving it a full week. And so tomorrow we'll have answers on what the highest, the 2 best attended events are going to be. And then we're going to pick a date. Since I'm going to be out in Vegas literally the next 2 weeks, we'll probably start that very first week of March and get things going, because I still plan on doing a couple of lives and being out there with all my other, YouTuber buddies. With Mike, with Dion, with Zoob, with Beth Traverso, that ADU guy. The list is long and distinguished. I'm at the bottom, but that's okay. We're going to be doing that stuff next week, and wrapping all that stuff up and having dates and times. That way everyone can get prepared for everything. So I'm super excited for that. Super excited for the One Rental at a Time event that is going to be on this coming Saturday and Sunday. I'm speaking on, I think, one of the panels, and I'll be at pretty much all the events hanging out and trying to spend time with people. It's going to be a big week. So let's jump into being sued. Let's do the sued first. So one lawsuit was on a building that I bought. I knew that everybody was super litigious. Bought into the deal, knowingly bought into the deal, expecting that there were going to be some suits. We're trying to finish one up, which was an appeal to the Supreme Court. I'll give you guys details on that once it's complete. And then there was another one, which was based on terms in the agreement. Essentially, we believed that we were getting the property as is, with everything all encompassing. The wholesaler basically made promises to the seller that they could keep some things. And we're like, we bought the property as is. We didn't buy it with fixtures being taken off. That's not how it works for our deals typically. And so now everybody's suing everybody. It's fine. Not a big deal. But when you get into deals like this, now, obviously when I get into the deal, one of the things I was looking at was, all right, how good is this deal? Right. And this was one of the deals where I was just like, you know what? This deal is absolute grand slam. It just is. It's just a big, huge deal. It fits the criteria for what I want for, the next step in projects, which is development opportunity, but also having, buildings there on site that already generate or would generate cash flow. So the idea for this project was, they are very rare. They are very, very, very hard to come by in our area. Maybe 1 or 2 deals a year comes around like this. However, there are much bigger and much better developers than me in this area. And so I need to take a deal that usually has a little bit more hair on it. That's what this deal was. This deal was one that had a little bit more hair on it. So I'll keep you guys apprised of what's going on in the coming weeks. But yeah, that was one lawsuit. Another lawsuit, which I find crazy, is roommate situation. They are not under lease. They have a roommate situation there in the house. No one's under lease. So everybody's what's called a tenant at will, 30-day notice. And there was a big fight between tenants. Big fight between tenants. Cops are called. Cops take a person away. Restraining order filed against said person. That restraining order for a year gets defeated in court. Said person comes back to the property with police saying, let me in. I don't know. He didn't set it up with me. He didn't tell me. He's been trying to communicate with the other tenants. Didn't set that up with me. Didn't tell me. Then he's texting me at 8 o'clock at night. Hey, they're not letting me in. Okay. I mean, sorry, give me some notice and I'll try and work it out. Then he tells me, hey, they changed the locks. I was like, okay. So your codes don't work anymore. Nope, my codes don't work anymore. Okay. Well, if your code doesn't work anymore, my codes don't work anymore. So I said, we'll come over and we'll try and figure it out, see what we can get to work. Well, they had changed the lock. So my codes don't work, like no keys. I don't have any keys for that lock. I got nothing. He decides to sue me because he paid his rent. Like, dumb as a box of hammers. You can sue me if you want to, but you're going to lose. I have to go through the same legal process that you do to get back in the property. I didn't commit some crime. I didn't get a lawsuit filed. I didn't get a restraining order filed against me. None of those things happened to me. I didn't cause any of that. You're in a little roommate squabble, Tiff. And that's on you. That's not on me. I don't live there. I don't choose your roommates. You chose your roommates and they chose you. So I'm figuring out from our attorney, hey, what do I have to do here? I said, I need to get access to my apartment. I own that building and I don't have access to that apartment because they changed the locks. I don't have any access. Left him a note. No answer back. The only person, I only had 2 people as contacts in that house. One of them was the plaintiff. The other one was the defendant. I can't rely on what the plaintiff is going to tell me. You know, I can't rely on them being truthful. And so I have to find a different way. There's 2 other roommates in the house that moved in. I don't have their contact information. So this is just a big old mess. So at the end of the day, I was sued, sent everything on to my attorney, waiting for him to give me his opinion, because this lawsuit is also a frivolous lawsuit. The guy knows that I don't have access and I don't have the ability to go pick a lock. I can't go smash a window and get access. I still need permission to get access. So it's going to be a little bit of a sticky wicket. We'll see how it ends up turning out. I'm interested to get my attorney's opinion. Just got this lawsuit on Friday. And so now it was sent everything to my attorney. And now I'm just waiting for feedback. It does seem to me more than absurd because even though he paid rent to me, I wasn't the one who locked him out. I wasn't the one not giving him codes. It's not me. I had nothing to do with it. And I can't go just drill out that lock. I can't. Not that I know of. So I just find this out. Everything's over to the attorney. And now I have to wait and see what the attorney is going to say back and say, do this or do that. So TBD on that one. I guess we'll just wait and see, and everyone can get some popcorn, I suppose. And then being audited. Oh, dear heavens. So, just getting everything ready to transition out of my 17 years at this company that I've worked for. Getting ready to become more full-time dad and getting ready for the convention and getting ready for vacation. And we get a letter saying, hey, from the IRS, hey, we're requesting more information. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, that's fine. I don't know if it was just not attached by accounting firm or, why. So I don't know. So, we'll just start there. So I get it, scan it in. And that's why I hire the amazing main bean counters and Bob Langworthy, send it over to him. He sends me back something. He goes, okay, great. I'll get on it tomorrow. I said, sounds good. So he gets on it tomorrow. He looks through, we have a quick conversation and he's like, I said, so they're just asking for more information. He goes, yeah, I mean, it's actually an audit. I said, oh, okay. Cause I'd been audited once before from the IRS, but I actually got a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, you owe this much money." And then I called them and I provided them documentation. It was about one transaction. I provided them documentation, and then they basically sent me something saying, "Hey, no further action." I'm like, "Oh, easy enough." So my only experience being audited was pretty straightforward. This one, they've asked for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents. And that's fine. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I've got absolutely nothing to hide. Why? Because we put in all the data where we believe it's to go. I mean, you guys have your taxes that you do every year, and you enter in the data every week, every day, every month. We tend to do it in stacks, because it's Ashley where she gets a couple of days a week. She's a real estate professional, so she works about 20 hours a week in the business, which is entering data, doing banking deposits, sometimes doing repairs when, reconciling bills, reconciling oil bills, and propane bills, and calling for service and all this other stuff, right? So she's a real estate professional. That's what she does, because I've had the W-2. So, so they have asked for a bunch of documents, and so we've provided all those. And so basically my understanding is we just go and we meet them and we give them all those documents that they requested. So at the end of the day, I look at it and say, I mean, audit doesn't mean you did something bad. And thankfully I have background, right, from being in the professional world. They would audit things all the time. And it's just in order to make sure that no mistakes were made, that there's not some issue that was missed. Audits happen all the time in the businesses that I've worked in and for. So all in all, it's just a process. So, we enter it in as we believe we should be entering it in. Then the analysts review it. Excuse me. Then a CPA reviews it. And then an EA reviews it. So ideally, it's going through this long process and multiple levels of evaluation to then be reviewed based on what we provided to make sure that it's basically being done right, right? It's like I always tell you, I can figure anything out, but at the end of the day, I pay experts to do what they do. So the experts are doing what they're doing. They basically said, here's everything that you need to put together based on what the letter said. Here's everything you need to put together. And then just be ready to kind of walk them through it that day and basically hand over the stack of documentation and have that conversation with them of, yeah, this is what it is, and this is what we do, and et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the day, yeah, being audited. So we'll see how the process is. But, kind of like Dion's audit, I know Dion was audited as well. It's kind of, hey, we need information. Here you go. And so the cool thing is that this is why, for me, that Corby Carter, one of our amazing, alumnus from Lumberjack Landlord Bootcamp course, is, he said, I really want to have the SWAN method, which is sleep well at night. And so from my perspective, I'm not all nervous and anxious and, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Because I know that we have a conservative stance on things. So, hey, at the end of the day, if we did something wrong, yeah, obviously we take care of it. And if we didn't do something wrong, cool, even better. Now it kind of sucks, obviously, that I have to pay some money, just from the basis of I need to get supported. But here is one of the cool things about the way we do our taxes. I have an enrolled agent, an EA, and an EA is very unique. An EA is actually somebody that can represent you when you are actually being audited. Unlike a CPA can forward those documents, but they can't actually represent you in an actual audit when it comes to all of the pieces and parts. So it's really interesting because we got an EA for this reason. So thankfully, we have an EA, and thankfully, he's a great EA. And so we're going to go down this path. We're going to provide them the information that they need, make any adjustments that need to be made, and then move forward. So it is one of those things that I think a lot of people, certainly people that we won't use any names, but you guys see them all over YouTube. I know that they're ultra aggressive in their strategies, right? That would scare me. I said to Mrs. Lumberjack, to Ashley, I said, hey, if you were the one who'd put everything together and then we just sent that in, I would be scared out of my mind. I said, but we have an amazing group in place that manage all of these things, and they're going to be with us through the process. So this is one of my sleep well at nights. I sleep well at night knowing that I've got a great EA. He's got a great accounting firm, and that they've gone through all this stuff before we submitted it for the tax return, but now we just go through the process and we get people what they need and answer their questions. So I'm actually, what was interesting about it, the reason I didn't really think it was an audit was it was different than the one I'd gotten previously. It didn't say you owe this much. It just said, we're just looking for additional information on these things. So, while we always had the joke, hi, I'm the government, we're here to help. I'm interested to see kind of how the process goes. We'll provide our information and answer any questions they have and then go from there. And then I'll give you guys details on kind of what that process was like. Apparently somebody thought I needed a whole lot more content to go up, but I was good. I was good with retiring and not spending a whole lot of time doing that much more content. So that being said, we'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, as a landlord, you're eventually going to get sued. You're eventually going to get audited. And so just make sure you have the systems and processes in place like we teach in the course to be able to handle those situations when they arise and not be really scared when they happen. If I didn't have a great EA and didn't have a great accounting firm, I'd be nervous. If I didn't have a great attorney and really understand the process of court, I'd be nervous. Thankfully, I don't need to be nervous about either of them. It's just a process. And so when it becomes a process, it takes that emotional thing out of it. And it just says, we just have to go through the process. So many audits find absolutely nothing. And quite frankly, that's what we expect. But if a mistake was made, then a mistake was made. We'll take a look at it. But again, just try to go through the process, learn what I can, and then share it with you guys. That way, if it ever happens to you, you guys are in better position to handle it. Josh Burdick, good morning. Vegas is coming soon, right around the corner. George Filbert, good morning and congrats. Just 3 work days left to retirement. Thank you, George. I appreciate that. And yes, 3 days left. Old guy REI, that's our good buddy, Frank Contreras. Good morning, Frank. Good to see you, sir. Check out his channel. He's got good stuff there. Flavio Macias, good morning. All-nighter, good morning, sir. Good seeing you on the UE live stream yesterday for members only. I would encourage you guys, it's $1. Guys, there's not a better deal out there. It's $1 to get on UE's private list. Well worth it. Hold on just a second. There we go. So well worth it. It's 99 cents a month. I mean, you guys should be on the UE's live streams. His live streams are great, but the members only is even better. The members only is absolutely fantastic because it's $1 and he can say all the things behind the scenes that he needs to say behind the scenes. Things that likely would get him demonetized, that should get him demonetized because he's just telling the truth, but likely would get him demonetized. So he does a great job at putting that content out there and you guys getting to participate without all the white noise, if you will. There's not going to be tons and tons of people. There's usually a couple hundred people in there, but he can get to a lot of the questions, which is really helpful. Chris Cope, good morning. Congrats again on retirement. Hey, are any of the boot camps getting together in Vegas Friday evening or Sunday evening? So I don't think the days have been picked yet because not everybody has voted. There's no, the plan is a Denny's thing on Friday night. And I don't know about Sunday. I think people are going to be exhausted. I saw the event and it's like 8 to 8. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm interested to see what happens. Dion Talk Financial, every time you hit the like button, someone retires before Matt, but only for 2 more days. See, at this point, if you retire now, you're pulling a Zuber. You're doing the walkout because I gave notice. I was nice. I gave them notice. I did plans, full transition plans. They're money balling me. I'm basically getting replaced in the aggregate, which is great. It's the only way to do it for someone as talented as myself. Brian Dold, good morning. Tuning in from Kansas City. Good to see you, Brian. Welcome to the channel. Oscar, good morning all. Chris Wissing, good morning from Northern California, Redwood Country. Looking forward to meeting up with everyone in Vegas. Chris, the same, my friend, the same. Wealth Building Journey, good morning, sir. Good morning, Chester. Good morning. Laura Samaniego, good morning, everyone. All-Nighter Hider, documents are a great thing when getting litigious. Absolutely, documentation, right? And that's what we have a lot of. We have a lot of documentation. And so at the end of the day, we aren't perfect. I'm sure we make mistakes, but we can show why we did things the way that we did them. And I think that that's just as important, right? If somebody's like, oh, well, no, you need to do this way. Okay. I mean, we did it the way that we were told to, and something has since changed. That's the way it goes. And P.S., real quick, to my state legislators, well done, guys. Well done. Rent control, that absurd, stupid notion, came around on our ballot again this year. Again. Congratulations to our amazing group of elected officials. They killed it. They killed the bill. 17-2. 17-2. Hey, you two idiots. I bet I know what towns you live in. You guys are absolutely a biggest bunch of clowns, in my opinion. To vote for rent control just shows how little you know about economics. Congratulations to the 17 people that actually don't have their head firmly stuck where the sun don't shine. Landlords appreciate you. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And we couldn't be more excited to the fact that we can actually work with the market to determine what rents are, as opposed to having to raise our rents every single year because somebody puts in place rent control. So super excited about that. Again, little side note, but pumping up New Hampshire, pumping up my state, because hell of a job. Hell of a job. The Yoder, good morning all. Robert Farinelli, good morning. Long question about electrical service changes, probably going to take a few comments. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Knowing the legal system and all-nighter hider. Knowing the legal system and how to cover my ass has taken a lot of stress off my shoulders. If something does happen, I have a documented contract in place with legal notice. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And obviously from our perspective, right? Like, we spend all the money to have EAs and CPAs review what we put forward. The reason that we do that is because we want assurances that it was done right. So we now have that swan feeling of we believe it was done right. They obviously have the swan feeling that, hey, of course we did it right. We did it based on the law and the statutes, and the way that it needed to be done. And so that's where, for me, honestly, you know what? I can't guarantee that I don't ever get audited, obviously, but if I do, all we can do is provide the appropriate documentation. Again, thankfully for us, we're not one of those super aggressive, get on top and try and, get one over. We're not aggressive at all on our taxes. We could file and claim much more, I'm sure. But we just do it the way that we do it because we want to be conservative and we want to pay the bills that we owe, essentially. So now we're going to get to see. Let's see. Definitely keep the IRS accountable. Make sure that you ask them to verified evidence you are legally defined person per U.S. code. That will foil them. Hyder, I love you, brother. I can't wait to meet you. T, good morning. Mandy W, good morning. Lie Tall, a friend looking to buy investment property in Rochester, New Hampshire. Any views on that town? Seems like capturing Portsmouth overflow. Nah. Nope. For those of you who are more local, Rochester's a toilet. Sorry. That's my opinion. Massive drug problem. They are developing it. You're absolutely paying a big price. Look at what stuff sold for there 3 years ago. They had a massive bounce. I will not invest in that market for a number of reasons. There are a ton of reasons not to invest there. You didn't find a hidden gem, really isn't, but you run the numbers. To say that Rochester is overflow from Portsmouth couldn't be more inaccurate. And I'm not coming down on you. I want to tell you why. It is legitimately 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And there's 6 towns closer. So, basically, for those of you who don't know, you have Portsmouth, which is a very expensive city. But then you have right across a massive bridge, and this is why I started investing there 18 years ago, was Dover, New Hampshire, is because they went from a 2-lane bridge to a 4-lane bridge on each side. So now it wasn't any bridge traffic. Everyone was like, oh, do you live over the bridge? That's what the question was, because everybody knew if you did, it was going to take you 30 minutes to get home, even though it was only a few miles. Well, the world changed. Now they have those super speed lanes. Now they have 4 lanes going over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So keep this in mind. The challenge is in Dover, in a lot of places of Dover, you're 5 to 10 minutes from Portsmouth. Rochester is that much further up the highway. You're now 40 minutes, 35 minutes to the state line. So now you're not getting Massachusetts people that are going to come up and live there, right? You're not getting, it's not the market. I disagree with people that think that Rochester is a great market. It's a completely different market. You're way too far away for student housing. You're too far away to travel to Massachusetts. You can travel to Maine, but then most people just then live in Maine because it's less expensive. And like I said, you compare Dover crime to Rochester crime, and it's eons different. Eons. And there are some other little towns. There are some other little good towns like Madbury. I don't like Durham, but Durham's kind of like its own little version of Portsmouth. But that's all mostly student housing. You've got Lee, but just as far from Portsmouth and easier to get there is Nottingham. Like parts of Nottingham on some of the major routes there. Barrington, I think much better option than Rochester. But again, you got to do research. You got to see what you like about the city. You will find a high Somersworth. I totally forgot Somersworth. Somersworth deemed the ugliest city in the state 3 years in a row. There's actually properties there that far better cash flow than Rochester. Rochester's a city, a lot more rules and process. So yeah, for me, in my opinion, I won't ever invest in Rochester. Not for me, unless massive changes happen. It's not for me. So Lytol, I tell you that only to tell you, make sure that you're understanding the crime rates. Make sure you're understanding the neighborhoods. There's probably more bad neighborhoods in Rochester than there are in Dover, Somersworth, Madbury, and Lee and Barrington combined. So the closest 5 towns, there's more bad neighborhoods in Rochester by itself. So the other thing too is that Rochester is also 4 or 5 exits off of the main highway, which means all things are not created equal. You could literally be putting yourself essentially closer to the lakes region than you are to the state line. And so that's where I come into the overflow thing. So there's a lot more overflow to be had closer to Portsmouth than going to Rochester. Hopefully that helps. All-nighter hider. Documented win-win purchases are what I want. I long to make a seller smile and be jubilant. I bet that feels really good. You are correct. It actually does feel really good. Until the deal goes sideways, and then it doesn't feel very good, especially when they pushed it sideways. More to come in that vein. I can only put so much bad news in one title. Wealth building journey. Document everything. The more you're prepared, the less you'll be scared. Absolutely. Totally agree. That's why I did the course. The reason I did the course was because I wanted to give everybody the same processes that we go through ourselves. That's what made me not scared. I wasn't some kid who grew up in construction with a construction dad. I had no clue on how to do construction. No idea how to manage it, how to do it myself. I had no clue. Well, as I learned those things, I was like, well, this isn't hard. It's just a process, something you have to learn. So when there's something that you have to learn, well, guess what? That's the great equalizer, right? Lydell, who is UE? UE is the uneducated economist. Uneducated economist. He's telling it the way it is, and you know what? Doesn't follow all the sheep that you see on all the main channels that really, quite frankly, don't know what's going on. He's been far more right than he's been wrong. He's absolutely fantastic. Let's see. Court, all-nighter hider. Court is quite literally a business transaction. To attorn is to negotiate the transfer of property. Yes. Jordan Outlaw. LOL. White noise. Good pun. Thank you very much. All-nighter hider. Yep. Wealth building journey. Documentation beats conversation every time. Yeah. And I think that that's really the key, guys. I think that's really the key. The real key to this is as you have documentation, that's the better position to be in. It's not feelings, it's not thoughts, it's not conjecture. Like it took us, boy, it probably took us a day and a half, maybe 2 days. And when I say we, I mean Ashley. But it took her a day and a half, 2 days to put all that documentation together to get that for them. And so, but we were able to do it because we're organized to a certain degree. Robert Farinelli. So got one quote and was quoted $5,800 for a service change. What I want is a service change for both units. Keep one panel and service because one service and panel is only rated for 60 amps. Okay. He said that in order to pass inspection, he needs to add arc fault, ground fault, everything. Yep. Another guy who will give me a quote tomorrow said it is unnecessary because he is not touching circuits. I bet the city, anytime you upgrade a panel, of course you're touching the circuits. Of course you are. The wealth building journey. Audits are only the IRS wanting to substantiate the existence of transactions that support justifying business expenses that qualify for itemized deductions. Exactly the way I feel about it, Chester. Totally agree. Robert Fernandez, which one is right? And how much should I expect for the cost of the meter boxes? I like the second guy because first electrician is instant on swapping second panel when not needed. Again, that's why we do quotes. But at the end of the day, though, you're going to have him. They're going to have to pull a permit. So ask them both. Okay, so you're pulling a permit. What makes this one require? You were given the information right there and what they said, right? So what makes this one require that you change everything to arc fault? And on the other guy's side, what makes him think that he doesn't have to change anything to arc fault? Because that is the biggest difference. Because what ends up changing is the panels are still pretty cheap, $125 a panel. Where you get got is the cost of those arc fault breakers. Those are $40 to $60 each, depending on how well you can buy them. So if they're $40 to $60 each, that gets very, very expensive. So that is one of the things that I would look forward to. All these messages coming in. I'm so popular. What state are you, LL, Neil? Yep. Matt, NH. Yep. Thank you, Hyder. Wealth building journey, the Granite State. That's true. Jared Oschenbein. Hopefully I got that right. Howdy. Let's get rowdy. Hey, Matt. See you in Vegas, Jared. I agree, Jared. It's going to be fun in Vegas. I'm excited. I'm the least rowdy person. I am super boring. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't party. I'm super boring. Sorry. I just like real estate. Robert Fairley, rent control was not killed. It was given an ITL recommendation for committee. Remember, every bill gets a House floor vote, but it bodes bad for the floor vote. It was killed. Says it in the document that I got this morning. 17-2 was the vote. So, was killed. Live free or die. You got it. That's our state motto for those of you who don't know. Neil, looking at some small single-family homes, 1,500 square foot, or duplexes in the Midwest, Indiana, what % of rent do you recommend holding back for CapEx maintenance, worried about long-term labor costs? Yeah, sure. I think that's smart, Neil. Me personally, I don't like single-family homes. Most of the time it's mom and dad or two adults working, and you need both adults to be working in order for them to make the rent. What ends up happening is one adult loses their job, and guess what? They can't make rent. So I much rather buy a duplex depending on what the value equation is. And depending on what that value equation is, like is a house $400,000, but a duplex is $550,000, and then you get 10% less rents on the duplex on each side, right? So that's kind of the calculus. Like that's a lot of the stuff that we talk about in boot camp, right? Is we'll actually look at a deal and evaluate a deal. But I'll show people a deal that I did and deals that I do. And the reason I do that is for just such an occasion, right? $400,000 is a single family house. When you rent that out, minus CapEx and all these other things, you might make a couple $100 a month. Like it's not much. And there's a ton of risk there. For me, I like the small multis, duplex, triplex, quadplex. I like those because I can still buy into those owner rock for under 5%, like those for you guys. You can still buy them investment for 20 or 25% down, which is what's going to be on a single family house anyway, that you're buying as an investment property. And so, yeah, for me and from my perspective, I just like the small multis because I just reduced my risk. So let's say the house is 40% more expensive, right? But you're only getting 10% less in rents. Well, if the math proves out, you're actually making a lot more money on the duplex. But now you've also spread your risk because now you're working with two households as opposed to one household. Likely your rent's a little bit lower. That's a good thing. And likely a duplex is the last place a person's going to stop before they go and buy their own home. So I like duplexes a lot more than I like single families, and math is on my side. So I think you're looking at it the right way, Neil. And so yeah, that's the path I would continue to go down. All nighter hider, LOL. I was being goofy, but the question actually works. A legally defined person is not a human. I mean, I don't want to get them pissed at me to start because literally I don't mind. I don't mind them asking. Like, so yeah, I'm one of those guys where largely like path of least resistance, unless I'm really being, unless I think it's a game is being played. And so far I don't feel that way. I just feel like they're asking for additional questions. I'm good. Hi, Matt. Looking forward to Vegas. Hoping to catch up with you and all the other boot camp number 2 classmates. Curtis, good to see you, my friend. So Curtis, another alumnus of the Lumberjack Landlord University. Curtis, don't forget to see me. I want to make sure I see all my boot campers out there. I've got something special for you guys. And those who aren't able to attend, I will send you what they got. They're not going to get anything more than you. George Philbrick received a letter from the Rochester NH Assessor's Office asking to provide rental income and expenses on my 5 unit. I'm afraid they're going to jack up property taxes significantly. George, I believe you are right. The letter wasn't sent certified. I'm feeling I should ignore it and let them base the valuation on market comps and replacement value alone. So obviously I can't tell you what to do there. That's a sticky wicket. But I'm hearing that some of these places are trying to base their assessed value on rents and income. That's dicey. To my knowledge, the cities that I do business in haven't done that. That's another reason I avoid Rochester like the plague. They are trying to take different stances and be far more progressive in their taxing. And they need a lot of money for a lot of work that they need to do that town, in my opinion. And I know where that's going to come from. That's going to come from property owners. And thus it comes from the renters, but the renters don't view the town as being awful. The renters view the landlord as being awful. Well, the landlord's just saying, they hiked my taxes 18%. Your rent's going up. It has to, because I'm not paying for that out of my pocket. So this is a way that cities, in my opinion, can hide behind it and put themselves in a position where they're not the ones raising the rent on people. And then they're like, hey, but we need to do affordable housing too. Wait a second. You can make it more affordable if you reduce the burden. If you reduce the burden on the landlord, you make it more affordable. All those are passed on costs. I was at a hearing in one of the cities that I do business in, and that's exactly what I said from the pulpit. That's what I said. I said, if you pass this on, I'm not going to pay for it. Tenants are going to pay for it. And you single-handedly just made housing less affordable. So I don't want to be back here again in another 30 or 60 days when you guys have some workshop about how you want to talk about more affordable housing. Stop spending money poorly. Start spending money like it's a business and that you can't keep on doing everything on the backs of the citizenry. Because I don't raise my rents every single year, but I do have to raise them when costs go up. That's how it goes. Robert Fairley, Rochester looks like a great market for Section 8 and nothing else. Yeah, I mean, I think Somersworth is better by far, not even close. Lytall, thanks for all the info in NH. Friends said murders were low. So is that how we're not coming at you, but think of it this way. Is that what our numbers need to say, is that there's not a bunch of murders? Like higher bar, right? and you want to have a higher bar for the cities that you're getting into, look at the drug problems. Go drive the areas where you're actually looking to buy. There's some that are around train tracks, and there's outdoor communities that, tent cities. Like, you don't want to have that where you're in a major thoroughfare where people are going to have to walk through your yard to get to the tent city. You don't want that, right? So what you really have to look at is, that's why I drive the area, right? Drive it at night. When I look at an area, I look at it not only at 10 in the morning, but I also look at it at 11 o'clock at night. And usually once I'll drive through there at like 1 or 2. If I see any amount of activity at 1 or 2 in the morning, other than me, that's not probably somewhere I want to be, because that's activity likely that is not, in my opinion, legal activity. I could be wrong. But yeah, for me, it's not a murder number. For me, it's just not a murder number. It's that's obviously part of it, right? But New Hampshire as a whole has a really low murder number, really low. Must be something to do with the fact that there's more guns than people in our state, legal guns. All-nighter, George, the question is, and you hinted to it, can they verify they sent you legal notice? Yeah. Wealth building journey, Neil, the 5 I look at: repairs and maintenance, 1% each of purchase price, vacancy 6% of rents for my area. Know your area. Yep, that's true. I'll finish that thought. 2 for 2, CapEx, itemize and add all of the big ticket expenses, roof, major appliances, HVAC, etc., and divide by amount of time you plan to keep the asset in months to find out a CapEx number. It's a good theory. Yeah, it's a good theory. I think, when I buy, so like Chris Crone will buy an asset, but he doesn't want to do a heat system. He doesn't want to do a roof. He doesn't want to do windows. He doesn't want to do any of these things. So his rule is kind of like, I'm going to have it for 7 years. I'm going to fully depreciate it, or mostly depreciate it. And then I'm going to sell that and buy another asset. And so he has this constant machine going where he's always having to buy based on what he's selling. Not a horrible strategy. And quite frankly, he's probably going to get to to be a billionaire in my eyes. The only challenge is that the kind of business that you want to be running. And the other, kind of obvious piece to it as well, I'd like to hear some of his failures. Excuse me. I'd like to hear some of his failures. I've failed on stuff. I've bought stuff in neighborhoods where I was like, oh man. And it seemed good up front. And then I watched it over time, and it turned out to be a junk neighborhood, just a junk neighborhood. And then selling it was hard. And here's the thing. There were no murders there. There was no murders there. What there was, lots of late night traffic. There were lots of drugs there. So I was told. Can't confirm, only representing third-party information. So, Josh Burdick, we had our CPA represent us on an audit. Like you, we have conservative and honest books, so we had no issues. Having smart representation is key. Absolutely. The question becomes does it escalate from that audit, right? And so from me and from my perspective, if I got to pay the same for a CPA as I'm paying for an EA, I'd rather have an EA that's linked to a CPA, because if for some reason it escalates, I still don't have to worry, and I don't have to then get somebody more involved. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. Oh, I totally forgot. Today is Super Bowl Sunday. Can't believe I forgot. Julie Anderson, according to Zillow, my total property values have increased about $200K in the last month. That's amazing. Nothing like those revaluations. So, obviously, we all take that with a grain of salt, right? Because in true form, what's really funny, there's a lot of stuff hitting the market now where the numbers are astronomical and they're still selling. That said, high end of the market, not there. Move up buyer, not really there. It's usually investment and entry level people. Those deals are still selling. We actually have a couple entry level homes. They're two out of the 3 single families that we own. We're actually selling out of them. We're selling them because that's not an asset that I want to own for the next 5 years, right? And we have more of a time horizon where we're like, we can take that money and we can put it into something else. And then lastly, Wealth Building Journey said property management, 10% of gross rents. Yeah, it depends on if you're going to, again, I think that what people will find over time is that if they have processes and if they have documented processes, that's why I did the course. It's going to save you time and money in how people manage your account. And if you have to have a PM, but largely you can transition out of having a PM and have more of a handyman model, which is going to be far less expensive. You know, I don't love the product Hemlane. Some people use it and like it. I don't particularly like it. I found stuff that I thought was far more functional, far more powerful. And it allows me to manage a lot more properties and still do all the things that I need to do. If you're looking for just pressing a button and having access to something where it can get you an agent on site and things like that, well, then you're not really building your team. You need to do a better job of building your own team. That's why Millennial Mike and his amazing course that's going to come out in the next, I don't know, couple months. His course is amazing. I know it's going to be fantastic because we talk about that remote management. When my daughter was sick, I couldn't go to property, so I was remote managing even though I was only 5 miles away. And having to build that team and understand what process and things you need to create to manage somebody from afar where you don't have to be the one to go on site all the time. That's a big win. But also, if you do the math, your PM is going to make more money on your property than you are. By the time you do maintenance, vacancy, PM fees, by the time you do all that stuff, you are likely losing money on most deals. That's why people aren't buying a lot of investment property right now that have all of those extra costs. It really has to be a home run, and it really largely has to be value add. So one of the things that I always recommend, and this is again why we did the course, is because it lets you set up all those things where now you're not having to depend on a PM that's going to, or a property manager that's going to take 10%. And then if you want them to rent your unit, they're going to take a month's rent or 85% of a month's rent. I can't afford that. That's all my profit. Now you're making more on the unit than I am. When you first buy, and certainly a lot of people that buy single families, this is the biggest issue. You look at it and at the end of the year, okay, I still had to reconcile. I still had to keep track of stuff. I still had fees and expenses that came out through the process. Everybody made more money than I did on my property. Now you own it and hopefully it appreciated, but you don't know that it's going to appreciate. I went toe to toe with somebody yesterday that their entire strategy is appreciation. That is the dumbest strategy, in my opinion, you could ever put out there. Because what happens if you bought in 07? 08 down, 09 down, 10 down, 11 down, 12 down. You had some of the worst tenant pools. You had lots of evictions. You want to keep on going to work? That strategy works in the fastest growing and appreciating market in history. It worked from 2020 to 2024 or 2023. It worked amazingly well. But backwards test your strategies. That's why my strategy, backwards test it all you want. It wins in every single market, always. That's why the strategy is what it is, because I needed something that was much closer to future-proof. It had to be much closer to future-proof because I don't know what the future holds. G. Waters, good morning. Keith Hager, good morning. Martin Properties, what's up, dude? Look at that, Martin Properties. I love it. I love it. Love the new channel. Love the new name. Love it. Just to let you all know, we changed our handle to Martin Properties as we were trying to look more professional. Thanks for following. There you go. REI Stoners isn't professional. What? Yeah, I bet banks look at that sideways. The wealth building journey. That's not boring, Matt. Former smoker back in USN and drinker. Now you can't pay me to do either. True story. Yeah. Yeah. I watch a lot of my friends spend a lot of money having fun. I was like, dude, that's so expensive. So expensive. And I can still go along and still have fun. But we are still REI Stoners. Good for you guys. Financial firefighter, Mark Oshiro. Good morning. Aloha from Hawaii. The wealth building journey. Yes. Good morning. Cigarettes, all-nighter hider. Cigarettes are feminine cigars, and I won't go there ever again. Hider. All-nighter hider. Josh, notice I typed need weed. I still get safe when I want to. Nice. Jordan Outlaw at Neil. Noble County in Indiana. Here, I plan on 20%. Good, Jordan. Thanks for the number. Jordan, 20% for CapEx maintenance. Would love to chat with you about Indiana. Guys, this is how we do it. Connect with each other. Your network is your network. You should be talking to other people that invest in your network, in your area. Vital, I hear you. Just comparing to Gary, Indiana, Detroit, etc. NH is a comparative paradise. NH is a paradise, even not comparatively speaking. I mean, Chicago, Detroit, Gary. Yeah, they're all bad. They're all bad. They are. They just are. However, there's good parts of Gary and bad parts of Gary. There's good parts and bad parts everywhere. The question is how much is bad? How close is the bad to the good? And how often does the bad go where the good is? Right? So, yeah. Summertime Santa. Good morning. Good morning, Summertime Santa. Jordan and Neil chatting it up. I love it. Morning, Matt, with tenant turnovers. SK. We're going to hit this one up on the screen. Morning, Matt, with tenant turnovers. Do you list property yourself and do showings or get help from a property management company? How long does it take you to repair the list and have tenant move in? Great question. I think this is a major mistake that a lot of landlords make, is that what we typically do is when we know that the tenant is leaving, they're giving that 30 days notice. And so then we say, hey, thank you so much for giving that 30 days notice. We really appreciate it. And what we do is we say, we're going to do a couple of open houses. It will just be for a couple of hours. It'll be on a Saturday, but we're going to do a couple open houses just to make sure people get the opportunity to see the place. And we're going to schedule those with you. They say almost always, they're like, okay, can I be here? And we're like, we prefer you not, just so people can walk around. But if you need to be, we understand, and then we show the place and then we get a pool of renters and then we're able to rent it. What we do tell them is, hey, we recognize that there's some repairs there that need to be made. What we're going to do is, it doesn't make any sense for me to repair a wall going down the stairs that you're probably going to bang and everything going back up the stairs. So we want them to essentially own their own damage. So when the old tenant moves out, we take pictures of everything. And we're just like, okay, now we have a list. Then we make a list. Here's all the things that we need to do in that property. However, they're moving out. Our leases are tight turns. People are out at 5 on, let's say, a Thursday, and the next tenant can move in at noon. So the only thing that I'm really focused on is cleaning. That's the thing I'm most focused on, and anything that might be safety related. But that night, that following morning, we can get the safety related items addressed almost always. Sometimes it's, and when I say almost always, it's sometimes we need to bring in additional help. It's not just our crew. But we let them know and we get that stuff done. So very often people are moving in, trying to get all their stuff done and wrapped up. They much rather have a move in on the first. I'd rather have a move in on the first because I don't want to lose rent. They want to make sure that they can go from their place to the new place, but they also just want to make sure everything's done. And so we actually share with them the list and we say, hey, here's the list. This is what we're going to have to get through, and they're good like that. We talk to them and just say, yep, it's going to be a few days, but we'll get everything wrapped up there. Once you guys are all settled in and moved, we'll be able to finish everything up and then you're good to go. And now you're handed something that's perfect. And you're good to go at that point. So that's how we do it. And it saves us a ton of time, money, effort, and energy. As I teach in my course, SK, we actually contract with a leasing agent. That's what we do. Yep. That's what we do. I write most of the copy for our ads. She takes the pictures. We have a very specific structure that we do, and then she advertises them where we talk about advertising them, and then we get what we get. So it's a pretty fluid process. And I pay her by the hour. I don't pay her a commission. I pay her by the hour. And the reason that I do it that way is it protects her. If she spends, like in January, it's harder to get renters. So I don't want to pay her for the unit when it gets rented. I want to pay her by the hour for the amount of time that she puts into getting it rented. That makes us both work the smart way, which is, from my perspective, I want to make sure that the place is 100% done, ready to go for her, and ready to be shown. And that I've put my best foot forward in trying to make sure it's that. And then also from her side of things, it's like, she's not going to spend a bunch of time. How many times have agents had a listing taken away from them? How many times has something like that happened? Happens all the time. Well, I don't have to worry about it. All the time that she put in, she got paid for. That's what I like. That's what I like about that model. Keith Hager, Wealth Building Journey. I'm a Vietnam tin can veteran, 2 tours, hardened shellback. Keith, appreciate your service, my friend. Neil, total appreciation play would have worked very well in the DC area. This is more resilient. This is the more resilient area in the world. Too many government jobs here. True. Yep. Yeah, but it didn't work for 24 years. That's the thing is, if you go back and you look in 07 through 12, it didn't work at all. It didn't work at all. You were paying a lot of your money towards keeping your assets. So that's the thing is, if it didn't work in that, we're going to have a turn again. I still have called it. I still believe a 10% decrease in existing median home prices. And here's a news flash. The latest report had it at negative 8.6. So I'm close. I got another 1.4 to go. Flavio Macias, thank you, Matt. I gave a letter notice to my tenant that was behind 2 months on rent. Thanks to that, he paid right away. Flavio, I love it. That's what we do, guys. We have those conversations. You got to do that stuff because then he was on notice. Hey, I'm going to toss you, bro. You got to pay. I'm glad you got paid. Neil, I think LL will read anything we type here. He's like Anchorman. As devilishly handsome. But no go F yourself, San Diego. Landlord Odyssey. Hey, Matt. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ready On. Hi, Landlord Odyssey. Enjoy Vegas, Matt. Too many people for me. Maybe someday a long trip. I'll stop by to say hi. Looking forward to my second boot camp. I'm looking forward to having you, Harry. See, guys, if you want to know whether or not boot camp's worth it or not, look how many people come back for it. We have like a dozen people taking the boot camp all over again. It's an awesome group. It really is. It really, really is. And Harry, thanks. I'll enjoy the trip. It'll be a good time. Neil, Northwest Indiana is really odd. Gary is horrible, but Munster 10 minutes away is where all the medical professionals stay to avoid Illinois liability insurance rates. Yes, there's a lot of opportunity there, Neil, in that northern left corridor of the state. There really is. I forget what they call it. There's all the waterfront there too. That's right on that borders the lake. So like I said, there's always bad areas. There's always good areas. You just have to kind of go through that process. The wealth building journey, Matt, that's absolutely the truth. All in between repairs, maintenance, vacancy, CapEx, and property management. That's anywhere from a fifth to a half of post cash out, AKA after PITI cash flow. And all those non-cash out, AKA rainy day expenses will tank deals that are close to the edge. Absolutely. That's why I don't want you doing close deals, but I also like people doing deals in small multifamily, 2, 3s, and 4s. It's a great way to get your feet wet. It serves your need if you're at the age where you're like, hey, I also need a place to live. It serves your needs as shelter as well. You get your best debt. You can buy that with 3.5% down. If you're a vet, you can buy it with 0% down. And you can still make it a rental property. They don't make you refinance when you move out. They don't. So long as you bought it as your primary residence, and then you actually lived there. We lived in places between a year and 2 years, and then we would move on to the next one. Neil, have you connected with Millennial Mike? You seem familiar. Robert Fernelli, building out a team is hard, especially when you have to do everything yourself or risk bankruptcy. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. The wealth building journey, Neil. At Neil, some properties in the DC area can cash flow. I've been here outside of the time I served in the Navy. Thanks for sharing that win, Flavio. All-Nighter Hider says, I completely agree. We're going to show that. Actually, we're going to show, sorry, Hider, we're actually going to show his response because that's what we do. We win here. I love winning. Love it. Let's see. SK, what's your take on having rental in downtown area next to a fire station? Nuisance because of noise or preferable because of security? So no, not on the security side. The noise side, what I would do is you can usually call the firehouse and you can ask them how many times a month they have to leave there with lights on, guns blazing, right? You can ask and they'll usually have that number. If it's, again, the challenge is how close. The challenge is, are they taking a left or taking a right? And if it's right, it's by my house. If it's left, it's not. Ideally for me, for the longest time, I didn't invest in deals that had double yellow lines on them. I don't like double yellow lines because you have faster traffic, you have more noise. It's usually some sort of a commuter route. So for the longest time, I didn't do double yellow line deals. Now I've got some, but not a lot. And the ones that I do, they're largely commercial, or they're literally like smack dab in the middle of downtown. And it's because the person doesn't want to have a car and they want to walk to everything. Let's see. Jordan Outlaw. Left side, boo. Right side is where it's at. SK, any concerns with grandmother co-signing lease for her granddaughter going to college nearby? Grandmother will help pay rent, but not stay there. Yeah, I mean, I don't love cosigns. And the reason I don't love my cosigns is for one reason and one reason only. What's going to be the problem when that girl calls her Grammy? She's going to be like, Chester's mean. Chester wouldn't build the shelf system I wanted. So I don't like talking to parents. They're adults. They're 18, 19, 20, 21. You know, they're adults. I let them figure it out and we work together. That's how it goes. So for me, like I said, not a huge cosigner guy. Yeah, not a huge cosigner guy. My preference is to get the right person in there that, even if grandma's paying, yeah, I don't really want a cosigner, but I'm broken. Other people love cosigners because they're like, oh yeah, it's that many more people to take down. It's that many more people to fight, you know? So yeah, for me, I'm not a cosign guy. Laura Samaniego, Matt, do you let the tenant move in a couple of days before the first of the month because they need to move out of the current unit? Concern about liability before contract starts. I don't, unless I put them under lease early and they can prove that they have all the stuff that they need to have. So Ryan Allen, only have to refi to reuse that type of loan. You do on a VA, you do on an FHA, but you don't on a conventional loan. And so again, from my perspective, and even, there are some of the 5% down conventional loans now that are back, which is like the biggest boon ever. Like if that was created for people to buy more investment property that wanted to live in it. Like, that's a beautiful thing. I love that. Let's see. So yeah, so you do have to refi to get out of an FHA, but that was a much bigger issue when FHAs were 3.5 and conventionals were 10, 15, or 20, but now you can get them for 5 and you can count your rents 100%, not 75%. So yeah, now it's even more doable. Brett Beesboer, time for brunch at work. Nice. The joys of being a firefighter and not a cop. I finished later. Nice. Good for you. Wealth building journey. Best recommendation, don't do it. Station houses have a lower drop in value because of the constant sirens going on day and night. Yeah, that's where I would ask what the volume is. Like, we have this one fire station that I swear it's open, but the only time that they get called in is when it's like a multi-town fire. So from that perspective, I look at it and I go, do I really want to do that? Probably not. But if it's almost no volume, you can also get away from the noise depending on what it is, right? If they're always taking a left, you might find value because the house is on the right or back off the woods or whatever. So I would look at those deals. Wealth Building Journey says, I should say residences have a drop in value close to station houses. Ken, sure. Dividend Dave. Hello. Hi, Dividend Dave. Dividend Dave, we're not starting over, says Wealth Building Journey. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're not starting over, but we're always glad to have you here. Let's see. All-nighter hider. Laura, add an amendment to the contract, a quick write-up, and signing with a notary. So generally speaking, Hyder's right. However, if I had to do that for every single time that was asked, that'd be like a full-time job. And so my perspective is I just add the couple of days onto the lease if I want to. I just add a couple of days onto the lease and say it's being taken. My lease reads, here's the day you signed, here's the day you took possession. They're two different things, usually. So I get them both. And so when you get them both, I can put, here's when they signed it on the 20th. Here's when they're moving in on the 27th. And then I'll actually say, no fees due. We let somebody move in like 4 days early last month because it was wintertime and it was a weekend. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. But I had them take ownership of the premises on the day that they were moving in. That's the key. Ryan Allen, I'm on my second FHA house hack property. Good for you, Ryan. That's awesome. All right, you're in the Lewiston area, right? Lewiston, Maine. Laura San Diego, Matt and Hyder, thanks. You're very welcome. All-nighter Hyder. What are these? Emma K, afternoon. Emma K, she is my agent. She's one of my agents. She's one of my rental agents. All-nighter Hyder. Good afternoon, Emma. All-nighter Hyder. Good call, Matt. I wasn't thinking at scale. It's okay. That's the biggest challenge. When we have processes, that's where the biggest mistake that can be made is that you're only learning from somebody that's slightly bigger than you. Biggest mistake. Find somebody that's grown to the scale that you possibly would like to. What you'll find most often is all the processes, all the systems, and everything that's been put in place that's needed to manage a larger portfolio, even if yours is smaller. People might have 8 or 10 units, but if you manage it the way that I manage mine, it's less time per property. I'm very excited to be retired now because I am going to prove that I can be more lazy than Dion. I mean, admittedly, it's like an Olympic event of laziness. And so I'm very excited to try and keep up / not keep up / be the most lazy. But all of that comes from process, having all of these things in place that ensure that I spend the least amount of time on trivial things and that I only spend time on either A, growing the business, or B, finding out better policy to put in place to make the business more profitable and more effective. Neil, Olympic event of late. Yeah. I think that's what we're going to call it. Ironwood Workman, where you been, buddy? I saw one of your questions on one of the auto channels that I watch. I loved it. Ironwood Workman asked a great question, and he said, based on how poor the quality is of current vehicles, does it make sense to buy something older in great condition that you know will last longer? It's a great question. The guy poo-pooed it, I think it caught him off guard because I don't think he saw the intelligence in the question. The intelligence in the question's there. That's why I buy 24-year-old vehicles, because they are far more bulletproof. They are not expensive to fix. So I really liked it. I really liked your question, Ironwood. Let's see. Yes, Ryan Allen. Yep, one in Lewiston and one in Auburn. Awesome, cool. All-nighter. That's too cool. Make the new tenant happy and CYA at the same time. Genius. Yes, that's always the goal. We want to make the client happy, but we also need to make sure that we're covered. So that's where that really comes in. You get highlighted for that one, Hyder. Ironwood Workman. I grew up in the country, but I love little houses that are in walking distance of everything. My house in Montana, I can walk to all schools, including the college, hospital, and downtown shopping. Absolutely. The only concern is here on the East Coast, we still have a lot of railroad towns. Depending on who the conductor is that day, that can suck. So you do pay less. And we have them where, like they are built like right on the train tracks. Like, I kid you not, I looked at a house where the train tracks were 10 feet from the furthest corner of that house. 10 feet. 10 feet. You feel it. You feel that freight train coming through. We have one freight train that comes through that has about 300 cars on it. You feel it. You feel every bit of it. And so if you're a light sleeper, you're going to hate being there. You're likely going to have high turnover in that unit, which means you're going to have to be under market rents, but then people are still going to want to leave. SK, do you always get permits to update your property to say change from storage room into bedroom? Anytime. So we just follow the rules, and usually it is if it's a minor repair on electrical, no. Minor repair on plumbing, no. If we're installing something new, like putting in a new boiler, yes, absolutely. If we're doing a new panel, yes, absolutely. What else? Adding another bedroom. Yes, only because you need to make sure that you have egress and safety covered. And if you put that in there and you don't have egress and safety covered and you get a claim against you, that's what the insurance company is going to fight you on. They are not there to pay the claim. They do not want to pay the claim, in my opinion. They absolutely want to find a reason to get out of it. If you permitted it according to code, and then code officer passed it, then that immediately takes the biggest and best weapon out of their quiver. That's my opinion. Iowa Workman, courthouse, public liberty, and the mall, aka the reason I bought it. I love it. Yeah, our place is a little bit off the beaten path, but we have immense privacy, close to 500 acres that are surrounding us. Not mine. The idea is you find that where it's conservation lands, then you don't have to pay for it, but you get the benefits of it because no one's going to ever build there. So that's one of the quick tip, lumberjack landlord quick tips. So I have the luxury of being next to 500 acres. I have the luxury of not having to pay for it. So that's something that's really, really important. But yeah, location, top 3 rules in real estate, right? Summertime Santa, what do you think of building small multifamily if you have the land? Would you be the type of who would be the type of people you would talk to about inquiring about that type of project? So I've looked at it, small multi, even some bigger multifamily stuff. What I've done is I've looked at, so now I'm further down the path, but I've looked at meeting minutes for the towns and found the attorneys that are always presenting on that stuff. And then I set for an hour-long consultation with them, talk to them about it. I also download a copy of the zoning law for that town. Zoning is of critical importance. You could fix a lot of the homelessness problems if you change the zoning. You just could. You could. The problem is that everybody has NIMBY, not in my backyard. So there was a big, huge, small, tiny home development that was proposed in one of the towns I do business in. And the neighbors all but came out with pitchforks and torches ready to light the guy on fire. And they were just nasty. They just went after them hard. They went after them. So what ended up coming of that? The guy abandoned the project. So they got their way. The downside is that would have put about 36 tiny homes available for people to rent. That is a major thing that people need to rent here. So I'm sure that many of those people in the neighborhood are all for it, so long as it's not in their backyard. And they were going to have to drive through the neighborhood to get to those things. That's one of those things. Ironwood Workman, by the way. Hello, people. Hello, Ironwood. Emma K, wish I was joining in Vegas, but have fun, everyone, and learn a lot. Well, you have to stay here because we've got units to show. Silly. Keith Hager, my nightmare now is buying a rental with a flat roof and 5 years later having to build a hip roof. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, I get it. I get it. Flat roofs are a nightmare, especially in areas that get snow, because you gotta shovel them off from a snow load perspective. I get it.
Neil, how old does an HVAC or roof need to be for you to replace it at purchase time if there is nothing wrong with it? Would you front load the maintenance before moving in tenants? Imagine 17-year-old HVAC. That's a great question. So a lot of times we'll have the systems cleaned and then just inspected and looked so we know. If we're doing a gut rehab, often we'll replace those systems because we've got all the walls open. If we're not doing a gut rehab, so we have two systems that are about 20, 25 years old in the house that we just did. Got them cleaned. Guy went through them, said, good. He's like, they're good. I was like, any idea time frame I'm going to get out of these? He's like, at least a few more years. Okay, great. At least a few more years. Usually when you start to see problems, it's then at that point a good idea to get the pricing. If you got stuck with, don't do, one of the big mistakes people make with HVAC systems is they'll replace the board or they'll replace the blower. That's a mistake in most cases. You replace the board, guess what? That's probably, 40% the cost of that asset. And everything else in that system is still 17 years old. That's when you have that big repair, that's when you look at it and go, yep, now's the time. Let's swap that thing out. But here's what you need to do. You get multiple quotes when I buy it. When I buy the asset, I get multiple quotes. That way, when it comes time to have to do it, I know about ballpark what it's going to cost me. Got nailed with that a little bit when the supply chains and everything broke. However, long term, it serves pretty well. Because then people are also familiar with the system. Then I'm not tied to one guy. So I talk to 3 people and say, yeah, I just want to get an understanding of what it's going to take to swap this out. Is that my best option? We go down that path and then there you go. We're in good shape. So yeah, as far as roof goes, yeah, I do an attic inspection. I look at the roof, see if I got any water coming in already. That might be a repair for that winter, but then basically taking the next year to kind of save up and then, have that expense. But I'm usually seeing that on the inspection report. Yes. Master Coach University. Sorry, I missed your super chat. Thank you. How did those tenants change your lock codes? Is it easy for the tenant to do once they have their code? No. But just like anything, you can go online and you can change those door codes. That's what they did. And they're not under lease, so it's not a lease violation, but it is a law violation. So now I'm just working through the attorney to say, hey, how do I do that? So the good news for us is this is the first time that's happened in, I don't know, fill in the blank, 20 years. So sad, but true. SK, when appraiser visits to appraised property, tenant had 2 bedrooms locked out due to people living there were on travel. Can appraiser still provide report or will insist on inspecting 2 beds? Depends on the appraiser. Some appraisers will look at the other bedrooms and you just give them the measurements and they'll say, yeah, you're not going to update a bedroom and not update the other bedroom. Some will do that. Some will just note, I didn't see the other 2 bedrooms, but if they are in the same condition as the 1 bedroom I saw, then here's the number. But it really depends on the appraiser. Oh, excuse me, guys. I apologize. I'm tired. Like I said, a little under the weather. They won't come back. The appraiser will tell you always, I'm here to appraise the property. Everything that I'm here to appraise is as it sits right now today. Period. End of story. There's no comebacks. There's no review laters. There's none of that. It's always as it sits that day, period. That's why if you have repairs you need to do before the appraiser gets there, get them done. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm going to repair that. What do you think they've heard 1,000 times? You really need to make sure that when you get the appraisal that all of those types of things have been handled unless it's some big thing that you don't plan on handling. Robert, have you ever considered buying empty mall to convert to apartments? No, it's too expensive. So no. Ryan Allen, like my 1988 GMC plow truck, had 1K in maintenance this year, but paid off and runs good. It's exactly it. It's exactly it. I buy old stuff, you know. I mean, my wife and I drove Pontiac product for a long time, Pontiac Bonnevilles and Pontiac Grand Prix, and I sold a number of those cars with 250,000 miles on them for $1,000, and that was after I bought it with 170,000, 160,000 with miles on it, and I paid 1,500 or $2,000. They, you know, a running car is going to be less than that, and those cars are absolutely fantastic. You can do 4-disc brakes all the way around for like $350. What other car are you going to do that on? You know, so yeah, we would drive inexpensive stuff. I mean, here's an example. My wife's minivan. We've been waiting 11 months for a part. Thankfully, she can drive it without it, but it's been 11 months. Good job, Honda. SK, do you always get a quote first from your crew before they start work, or get them started first and trust they have a fair price because of trust? My crew is maintenance, so I pay them by the hour, so I don't get any quotes from them. Any vendors, any 1099s or companies that I hire, yeah, of course, absolutely, they quote first. Yep. Yes, indeed. Ironwood Workman, Lumberjack Landlord, thank you. The old trucks and car work great for me. Yep. I am happy that some people see the value in them. Maybe someday they will forget about the 52 Vincent Black Lightnings. I know what that bike is. I've ridden one. It's an amazing motorcycle. Black Lightnings or the Black Shadows. They're both really cool. Cool bike. Cool bike. That is the most beautiful bike you'll ever see. If you look it up, Vincent Black Lightnings or Vincent Black Shadows, they're the most beautiful bikes. Their engine is just jewelry. It's just beautiful, polished. It's just gorgeous. So yeah. Yep. Definitely definitely in the market. I will have one of those someday. I do have a bike collection, so I do enjoy motorcycles. But yeah, the Vincent, that's one of the ones I don't have yet. SK, for fence replacement, do you always get fence company or specialist to do it, or go with handyman who knows what to do? There's no always. There is, well, the only always is that I always get it quoted out. From a fence company, they're like, yeah, it's this much and blah, 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 blah. Fencing is not difficult. It really isn't. It's very straightforward to do. You know, you call Dig Safe. They come out, they do the lines. And then the only thing that you need to do is you need to do a test hole to see if you're going to, in our state, see if you're going to hit ledge. But yeah, fences are not difficult. Fences are very straightforward. If you can use a measuring tape and dig a hole, you can build a fence. Wealth building journey for everyone coming to Vegas next weekend. Pro tip, bring a notebook and some pens. True story. Master Coach University, we're finishing a kitchen that has a butcher block countertop. What's your finishing process and what epoxy do you use? It seems there are many options. Yes, there are many options. We use a FDA food safe epoxy. That's what you want to look for. And that by far is going to give you your best, most long-lasting finish. Let's see. Yep, there's a food grade epoxy. Yep. I don't know the name of it though, but you can buy it right on Amazon. Food grade epoxy. Laura Samaniego, flat roofs are a nightmare in places that rains a lot. That's true too. They should not be allowed. Much less expensive to build. Landlord Odyssey, regarding documentation, do you keep physical copies of receipts, invoices, etc., or just digital? We will take a picture of them and upload it to our property management system. But that means that we have a picture of it and we put that in a folder and on the property management system. So we usually have 2 digital copies. We will, I'd have to ask Ashley what she does with everything. I know that we throw a lot of stuff out, but I don't know that we throw everything out. I think there's certain things that we do and certain things we don't throw out. I have to ask her. Ryan Allen, have a flat roof on my duplex and have never needed to shovel it off. Good. That's good. Depends on how big the span is, but most cases, you should shovel it off. It will crack eventually. Robert Farinelli, the Defiant locks Matt uses are easy to reset if you know how to. Yep, they are. Yep, you can look it up, but you can look it up on any digital lock. You can look it up on any of them. The only thing, and the only other decision that you then have to make is there's some of the ones that are Wi-Fi where it notifies you that it was changed. What good does that to you? You just got notified it was changed. BFD. You're still stuck in the same position. So this is where understanding that if you nip it in the bud here, then here doesn't happen. But that's the biggest max CLR. It might be wealth building journey, but that's the issue is that, okay, congratulations. It notified you that it changed. And if it stops the person from changing it, then that's something, but then you're going to handle that immediate issue right then and there, drop everything. Right. So there's no perfect guarantee that everything is going to work perfectly, but 4,000 tenant years and it's happened one time, I'm good with that. Those are numbers I can get behind. Once in 4,000 tenant years, yeah, I'm not going to change all of our process unless the attorney says to. I'm not going to change all of our process around one incident. Ready on. If only digital, I would think they would need to have backups in another site to reduce risk of lost. So we do, yeah. I mean, but we have it in a folder as well as, so it's on a machine. It's sent in email, so it's there too, and then it's also then attached in the accounting or in the property management system. Oh, Neil, good for you. The old 3800 engine in those GM and Pontiacs were rock solid. Neil, well done. Well done. That gets you up on the screen. Well done. That's exactly right. It was the 3800 with that transmission that was a perfectly married technology. Pontiac went out of business because their styling went in the toilet and largely their quality. They didn't want to really have nice cars anymore. But you look at some of those cars. The Grand Prix from the late 90s, early 2000s, those were really nice cars. And the Bonnevilles, same thing. They were nice cars. Drove them forever. And to replace parts on there, like the most expensive single part was like $300. You could even get a turbo. You could take the supercharger off the top. I mean, you could take the supercharger off the top and send it up and get it redone. And it was like $600. Awesome vehicles. And if you can find them in a state where they don't use brine or salt, you'll find them in good condition and they last forever. And everything is cheap. And there's stuff like that in junkyards where you can get the parts and pieces for them. So yeah. SK, stabilization has been sucking up all my time this year. Yep. Leaving no time for acquisition. Did your growth in portfolio early come from you solely focusing on acquiring and now you focus on stabilizing? No. So it does go in spells. So I think we did like 5 buildings in like 18 months when I started. 5 buildings in 18 months. And then it was trying to stabilize and then the market crashed. And so then that was painful. 3 years ago for like a 24-month period, I bought, or 20-month period, I bought like 22 buildings. Again, I only had so much of an opening when rates were 4 and I could get, and the pricing and the rents hadn't caught up and the pricing hadn't caught up with the value of what I could buy it at. So yeah, I bought everything I could buy because the market was telling me to with what the numbers were. But we have, we're now in the position where, yeah, we're stabilizing units. You're going to see a video in the next few weeks, where I talk about how much money we lost last year relative, but you'll hear it. I'll take you guys through it. And so stabilization and then optimization. But yeah, the most important thing is I wanted to acquire as quickly as I possibly could, but there's projects that literally I bought where I had intentions of doing XYZ to them. It's 18 months later. I still haven't done it. It's still rented. It's still making money. It's just not making as much as it can. So as the market kind of sucks right now and there's not great stuff to buy and it's really hard to find a deal, guess what? I already have a built-in deal. The even better part is I'm going to get 30% return on my capital. I'll put $10,000 into redoing a unit and I'll make an extra $3,000 in rent that year on that unit. Right? Make an extra $250 a month on that unit just because I upgraded it and then put it back on the market. I'd rather do that than buy another deal because it's 30%. I'll wait until deals are cheap again. They'll get cheap again. They're not cheap now, but they'll get cheap again. They always do. It's cyclical. It might be 14 years like last time. No way of knowing. No way of knowing. Ironwood Workman. I keep telling people most commercial buildings are very hard to convert to residential and most cost too much money. Yes, people keep talking about this because of illegal migrant and homeless. They absolutely do. The issue is that what you end up having to do is basically still have, if it's a mall, you still have all of the things there where it's basically just giving people warmth and you're putting, bunk beds, like military style bunk beds and all these things. Ironwood Workman. It takes a lot of skill and know how to do this. It absolutely does. Yeah, for sure. Tynan Friesian. Hey, nice to meet you, Tynan. Had the Pontiac Grand Am. Another great one. That had a different motor in it for a few years, but when it had that 3800, it's awesome. Wealth Building Journey. I vaguely remember the Pontiac. Forgive the silliness of this. Only now made the connection. But was that car manufacturer headquartered in Pontiac, Michigan? They were. When they started, they were in Pontiac, Michigan. Yep. All-Nighter Hider. I had a badass 72 Bronco Sport that had won contest years before I bought it, but was still super cool in my early 20s. That's a very cool car. I had a 79 Chevy Blazer that won awards at Carlisle. And I bought it because the guy had passed and the car had sat there for probably 10 years. And so it's something where I'm always deciding whether or not I want to put it back on the road. Keith Hager, what do you think of keeping your dry powder for future purposes and high yield CDs? Not opposed to it. I mean, I think everyone has to do what they feel comfortable with. The idea is, what's the term? Because I know that when deals have come across my desk, it's like, I got to do it now. And it might be a close in 14 days. Is there something that I can still get good return where I can close in 14 days? But often it's, 1 year or 6 months and things like that. And that's holding onto my money way too long when I need to be able to pivot. And Neil, Grand Am had the 3.4, not the 3.8. That's true. Did it have it for any years, Neil? That's because clearly you know about them. I thought it had it for a couple of years, but a majority of them had the 3.4. So yeah. And the 3.4 wasn't horrible. It just wasn't as good as the 3.8. That 3800, man, that thing would just go forever. I remember at one point having 3 of those cars. No joke. Had 3 of those cars. Yep. 3 of them. It's crazy. Had 3 of those cars. Yep. A white one, a black one, and one that was like this, like pewter color. It's pretty cool. It was awesome. Loved those cars. Had a lot of them. Drove them a ton. I drove 50 to 60,000 miles a year for 8 years. Yeah. Thank you for getting my name right. Most people say Tynan. No, why would you do that? It's Tynan. That's the way I read it. Welcome to the smart place on the internet, Tynan. It's because all you guys are here. So guys, it's been an absolutely fantastic week. Like I said, conference next weekend. Super excited to meet a bunch of you. I'll keep you guys updated on being sued and the audit and all that good stuff. Keep you guys apprised. Robert Family. Everyone who's going to Vegas, have fun because I'm one of the worst landlords ever. I am broke. Nope, not one of the worst. It's the beginning part of the journey. Those first 5 years, they pull from you. It doesn't make us bad. It really doesn't. It's just there's all those expenses in the first few years and learning and understanding and what you're trying to do that are going to increase the cost of getting these assets right. But stick with it. After 3 to 5 years, you'll start to see the light and you'll start to be like, I thought I was never going to get here. So take heart. But you guys all have a super awesome trip. Oh, I saw Yong. What's your opinion on buying a duplex that is converted into a fourplex without permits? I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I would need to know that it's a legal 4-unit, because otherwise it's not a legal 4-unit. And if it's not a legal 4-unit, it can't be priced as a 4-unit. More importantly is, depending on the state that you're in, they can start to fine you once they are notified of that. So that's just something to consider. So yeah. Anyway, everyone, have a fantastic week. Hyder, Wealth Building Journey, all you guys, thanks for showing up and moderating for today. You guys have an absolutely fantastic rest of your week, and I will see you guys in Vegas. Bye, guys.